The scene unfolded as crowd cheering for the emperor and empress of Castina Empire. The coronation of Rublus Kamaludan Shana Castina, Castina Empire's 34th emperor, had begun. The crowd shouts, "Long live the emperor! Long live the empress! Long live the emperor! Long live the empress!" They start saying, "Aren't they a match made in heaven? Both of them look so happy." Indeed. The empire will prosper now that the emperor finally met his empress. Aristia, the first wife of the emperor, stands behind the crowd listening them. Empress Palace. Empress Jiyun, second wife of emperor and his favorite wife, said to Aristia, "Wow, I've never seen silver hair before. It's so pretty. What's your name?" Tia bowed and replied, "My name is Aristia La Monique, dear empress, moon of the empire." Hearing her name, she gets surprised and asked, "So you're Aristia?" She asked her, "Can I call you Tia?" Jiyun said, "Nobody here is around my age, so I don't have any friends." "This is great. Nice to meet you, Tia." Aristia bowed and said, "I am honored, your majesty." Meanwhile she thinks, among nobles, only good friends call each other by their given name. She's been taking etiquette lessons for a while now, yet she still doesn't know such simple manners. Jiyun said, "My name's Jiyun. I hope we can be good friends." Tia replied, "Yes, your majesty." Jiyun said while laughing, "Don't call me like that, you can just call me by my name casually." Hearing this, Tia grits her teeth while thinking, that place should have been mine. She tells, the Castina Empire has a proud history that lasts 1,000 years. The 33rd Emperor Merkin Lu Shana Castina was perfect and had ruled most generously. However, his one flaw was that he had no heir to succeed his throne. When the royal palace grew dim with worry over the matter, he finally had a son late in his life. 4 years later, an oracle's divine message foretold the birth of the prince's partner, and a daughter was born to House Monique, a Marquis family. House Monique was the only Marquis family that contributed to the founding of the empire. As such, none ever doubted that the girl was the foretold partner of the prince. As soon as the girl was able to walk, she was trained to become an empress without any room for freedom. After Emperor Merkin passed away many years later, Prince Ruvulus was crowned as the 34th emperor. The girl waited, knowing that she would now soon become his empress. However, the unexpected happened, and it happened suddenly. A mysterious girl appeared at the lake of the royal palace. The girl had a curious appearance. Hair as black as soot that came down to her shoulders, and pitch black eyes. The temple fell into chaos at the sudden appearance of this girl, clearly from another world not our own. Then, an oracle was announced, naming her as the emperor's true partner. And so, the mystical girl was worshipped as the empress. While the girl, once trained to be the empress ever since she was born, was admitted to the royal palace as a lower queen instead of as an empress. Aristia walks in garden outside the palace. While walking she thinks, "I often walked in this garden with the late emperor." While coming close to a tree she thinks, "Now I visit this place alone, without him." She recalls late emperor's words as a memory, "My dear girl." Tears fell down from her eyes as she thinks, "I believed I would one day become the wife of his son and be happy." While crying she thinks, "Dear Emperor Merkin, I miss you." Suddenly she hears Jiyun's voice and gets shocked. Jiyun said, "Tia." Seeing her, Tia thinks, "Why is Jiyun here?" Jiyun asked her, "What's wrong?" Tia said, "Welcome, your majesty, dear moon of the empire." Jiyun asked her, "Were you crying? Did something happen?" Tia turns saying, "It's nothing. I was just remembering something dear to me." Hearing this with a confusing look, Jiyun asked, "Something, dear?" She gets emotional and said, "I see. I want to see my family too. I was just dropped into this world somehow without any warning." Seeing her, Tia thinks, "Ah, of course. She must have had her own family too. I think she turned 18 this year." Jiyun starts crying saying, "Mom, Dad." Tia, moving her hand towards her for condonation, said, "Your ma." Meanwhile she gets interrupted by Emperor Ruve's sudden appearance. Ruve asked, "What's going on here?" They both get shocked. Jiyun gets close to Ruve and shouts, "Ruve." He asked her, "What's wrong, Jiyun?" With a furious look he said to Tia, "You." Tia flinched when he said, "What have you done to Jiyun?" She tries to say, "Your Majesty, I." Meanwhile Jiyun interrupts saying, "Ruve. Tia didn't do anything wrong." She tells him, "I was tearing up a bit because I miss my family back home." Ruve said to her, "I see." With a gentle tone and softness in his voice he said, "You must be tired. You should go ahead and rest indoors. I'll be right with you." Jiyun said, "All right." Seeing him like this, Tia gets shocked and thinks, that tender tone. She thinks, "He's never spoken to me like that before." Meanwhile Ruve said, "You." With a cold tone he said, Don't you dare approach Jiyun. He said, Jiyun is a pure, gentle woman. The likes of you shall not dare treat her carelessly. She tries to say, Your Majesty, but he interrupts her saying, Did you think the crown of the Empress was yours? Never. The prophecy was misinterpreted to begin with. It wasn't yours in the first place. It was Jiyun's. Hearing this, she clenched her dress and thinks, I was only trying to understand how she felt. While leaving, Ruve said, If this happens again, I will not forgive you. Tia in her mind asked, Why do you hate me so, Ruvelis? I did my best to earn your love, that's all. After some time, Jiyun comes to Tia's room and asked her for forgiveness, saying, I'm sorry, Tia. Tia remains silent, giving blank look while Jiyun said again, I'm so sorry. Tia said, I do not understand what you mean, Your Majesty. Meanwhile, she thinks, Is this about how I'm doing all the work in this palace which should be done by you? Or about your unsophisticated etiquette that isn't improving despite all those lessons? Jiyun said, Well, I heard that you were supposed to be the Empress. I heard you were chosen as Ruve's fiancé since the moment you were born. But I arrived and Tia thinks, quite slow with the news, I see. Jiyun starts crying and said, I really didn't know. I'm sorry. Tia said, You do not need to apologize for anything, Your Majesty. We were simply foolish and misinterpreted the oracle. Jiyun asked her, What do you mean? Tia replied, Only God can decide who shall stand beside the Emperor. You are the person foretold in the oracle, so it is only right that you become the Empress, Your Majesty. Hearing this, Jiyun asked her, What? God decides? What's so great about being an Empress? Hearing this, Tia gets shocked and stops writing, thinking, What? Jiyun said, I just happened to fall into this world that I know nothing about. It was overwhelming when everyone talked about some oracle and marriage. It's not like I can go back home, so I accepted since I didn't have any other choice. But now I found out that he already had a fiancé. Jiyun shouts, So what's with that? That just makes me the villainous bee. Who took your place? She shouts, All I want is to just go back home. I never wanted to be something like an empress. Hearing this, Tia gets angry and thinks, How can this person be so? She asked Jiyun in serious tone, Are you done? She raised from her chair and slams the table. Jiyun gets confused and asked, Tia. Tia said, I am simply shocked by how irresponsible you sound right now. You simply accepted all this because you had no way to go back home. Even so, you should have given sincere thought into what kind of position this was when making that decision. Jiyun said, That's. Tia interrupts her while saying with anger, The Empress is the mother of all who live in the Empire, and is the sole partner of the Emperor who will rule the future of the Empire. Your position is not something to be taken so lightly that you can just whine about. Meanwhile, she thinks, I have always wanted to stand there, yet I could never have it. I have worked all my life to stand beside him, and yet. The papers fells on the ground and Jiyun said, Tia. Tia tunrs her face while saying, It maddens me so to see how careless you are about this, Your Majesty. I pity the Emperor and the people of our empire. She said, Most of all, I pity myself for spending all my youth preparing, only to end up worthless, assisting you like so. Tia thinks, becoming his lower queen because of someone like her. Just why did he choose someone like her to be his partner? While seeing Jiyun, she thinks, what was so lovely to him about a woman like her? Jiyun said, Tia, I suddenly came to a strange place, and I was confused. It was hard for me to accept the fact that Ruve, the one person I relied on in this world, had another wife. And that person was you, my friend. Maybe that's why I said something I shouldn't have. I'm sorry. Tia remained silent after hearing this, and Jiyun said while leaving, I'll be leaving now. She leaves and Tia sighed, thinking, I wonder what has gotten into me. I could have held back. I've been strangely impatient and unable to hold back my anger these days. While seeing the papers, she thinks, right, work. I have to finish these. While picking the papers from the ground, she thinks, these papers should be authorized by the Empress. She enjoys her privilege and his love, yet ignores all of her given duties. Meanwhile, Ruve comes and slams the door. Tia gets shocked. Seeing him, she said, Your Majesty. She bowed and said, Welcome, Your Majesty, the sole son of the Empire. Meanwhile, Ruve strikes her face without saying anything. She gets completely shocked by this act. He asked her in anger, What did you say to Jiyun? He asked her, Did you say that you were supposed to be the Empress? Tia replied, Never, Your Majesty. He shouts in anger, So why is Jiyun in tears and telling me to go find you? Tia thinks, Of course. I blamed her on the inside, and felt pitiful. But after Jiyun appeared, not once have I thought of you as mine. No, Even before she appeared, you were never kind to me. So how could I wish for something like that now? Tia gets surprised when he asked her, do you wish to become my woman that badly? With confusion on her face she said, Your Majesty. Ruve said, what for? I know it's not for love. A woman so bitter and cold, she doesn't even cry out when slapped. How could you love me? He smirks while saying, House Monique is flourishing even now, so it can't be due to simple loyalty for your family either. Perhaps you wish to bear the future emperor in order to continue your family's legacy. Hearing this she shouts in her mind, no. She thinks, though I was never loved, I wanted to love you, and I wanted to become someone who would help you. I never once thought of this as a duty for my family or politics. Ruve gets close to her and holds her hand and said, strip. Hearing this she gets shocked. He asked her, what are you surprised for? Isn't this what you wanted? He said, if you wish to be my woman so much, then I will make you so. He slams her into wall and she shouts, Your Majesty. She shouts, don't do this. He forced her while she said, Your Majesty, please. He asked her, why are you pretending to hesitate now? Isn't this what you wanted? She gets confused and said, I do not understand. Meanwhile she thinks, oh, right, I overheard before. Is it true? The Emperor. Yes, he hasn't stepped a foot into the Empress chambers, not even once. I heard that the Empress is rejecting him. She thinks, if that is true, what if I accept him now? Then, won't he at least think of me a little bit? She thinks, if I conceive his child, maybe he will look my way once again. She gets herself released from him and said, I may not be the Empress. However, I am not a mistress either, I am a queen. I will take these clothes off myself, so please respect my wishes. Hearing this he smirks and asked, a queen, not a mistress. He pulls her from her arm saying, make no mistake, you are nothing to me. Hearing this she thinks, I've always imagined the day I would be one with you. But this is not what I had in mind. Not like this. Ruve pushes her towards the wall and she shouts with pain. She said, Your Majesty. Wait. Ruve said, I'll do as you wish, so be quiet. 2 months later, a grand banquet was held. It was to celebrate Jiyun's 1-year anniversary since she appeared in the Empire. Seeing Jiyun and Ruve, Tia thinks, in the end, she. Meanwhile she recalls the moment when Jiyun said her, Tia, I'm sorry. I've fallen in love with Ruve. At first I rejected his words of love because of you, but in the end I couldn't help but fall in love with someone as kind as him. I will take him in once this banquet is over. But, I'll treasure you like my own little sister for the rest of my life. Let's be friends, just like sisters. Okay. Tia thinks, I wonder if my endless longing for him will fade once Jiyun accepts him. I wonder what kind of woman I will be. In the end, I can't even hate him. He hurts me and ignores me with a cold glare every time, yet I still yearn for his love like this. She was thinking, I don't understand, while she starts feeling nauseous. A servant noticed her and rushed towards her while she thinks, why do I feel nauseous? Am I getting sick? The servant asked her, Your Highness, are you feeling ill? You seem pale. Oh, Tia replied, I'm all right. She starts sweating and said, I'm just feeling a bit. She stumbles and thinks, I feel so nauseous. It's like my insides are turning over. But I didn't even eat anything. Everyone seeing her like this starts whispering. Some gets irritated and some laughs as they found what is happening. Seeing them Tia thinks, what is this? Why are they looking at me like that? Meanwhile Ruve and Jiyun asked her, is something wrong? Ruve asked Tia, what's all this commotion? Tia bowed and replied, it's nothing, Your Majesty. Nothing is WR. Meanwhile she feels nauseous again. Seeing her Ruve and Jiyun both gets confused. Seeing them Tia thinks, no. I don't want him to see me in such a state. But. Meanwhile Sir Ras comes and said, congratulations, Your Majesty. Ruve asked him, Sir Ras, what do you mean by that? He replied, though I may be hasty, it seems that the queen is with a child. He said, that is a blessing to this empire and to the royal family. It's only right to congratulate such a blessing, is it not? Hearing this everyone starts murmuring and shouts, she's pregnant. They start saying, the Empress is right there, yet she got pregnant first, then she could. Tia gets confused and thinks, I am. With a child. Meanwhile Jiyun sits down shouting, no. Seeing her Ruve shouts, Jiyun. He asked her, Jiyun. Are you alright? Your Majesty. Meanwhile she glares at Tia. Ruve helping Jiyun to stand said, here, Jiyun, stand up. He said to Tia, hear me, dear queen. To think that I'd hear news of your child on such a memorable day as today, this is quite a blessing. Hearing him speaking kindly with her for first time, she gets surprised and thinks, that kind voice. He said, I am truly delighted. Noticing his eyes, she gets shocked and thinks, he isn't speaking his true feelings, his eyes are so cold. The crowd starts shouting, congratulations, Your Majesty, congratulations, Your Highness the Queen, congratulations. He said to Tia, you don't seem so well. Would it not be better for you to return to your chamber and rest now? Tia bowed and replied, yes, Your Majesty. Then, I shall take my leave. Ruve said, I should be walking you out, but the guest of honor shouldn't leave his place. I shall send a doctor to look over your health and see you afterward. He said, do take care of yourself. She thinks, he is clearly banishing me. She said, I am grateful, Your Majesty. She went to her room and the doctor said to her, you must let yourself rest since this is only the beginning of your pregnancy. He said, this tea will help you feel better and less nauseous. Hearing this, she thinks, so I really do have a child. I thought I was sluggish these days from working too much. While touching her belly, she thinks, there is a baby in here. She picks the cup of tea and starts drinking it, thinking, I had a dream once. Even if he detests me and hates me, I hoped he would lay his eyes on me again if I had his child. It was a naive, foolish dream. The late emperor had him in his final years, so he must have been lonely during his youth as the only child. But the reality is, I will see you afterward. I'm such a fool. I know he only said those words reluctantly because everyone was watching, yet here I am now buoyantly waiting for him to visit me. After some weeks, she was walking in the hallway while she thinks, 3 weeks have passed since the banquet, but he didn't come to see me once. At least today, he finally called for me. But that is enough to make me happy. To feel so sluggish and dizzy today of all days. I often feel ill and uneasy these days. Is it because of the rain? She went to Ruve's room while he was standing beside the window seeing outside. A servant said to Ruve, Your Majesty, Her Highness the Queen has arrived. She comes inside and said, I am here as requested, Your Majesty, the sole son of the Empire. He said, I don't wish to speak with you for long, so I'll be brief. He said, I don't suspect that the child in your belly is not mine. You wouldn't do that, judging by your high sense of pride. Hearing this, she thinks, stay calm. Don't show him anything disgraceful. It will displease him if I do. Ruve said, however, keep this in mind. I will choose my heir from among the children of the Empress, not you. It doesn't matter how many children you bear, nor how smart the children grow to be. They will never become my heir or successor. Do you understand? Hearing his cold words, she thinks, such a cold voice. It's like his words are cutting through my bones. He asked her, why aren't you answering? I asked, do you understand? She thinks, why does he hate me so? It hurts my heart. She tries to say, yes, but suddenly she starts feeling dizzy. She staggers and was about to fall down. Ruve catches her and saved her from falling. Seeing him close, she thinks, oh, I've never seen him like that before. Meanwhile, Jiyoon comes and opens Tae's door saying, Ruve, I got tired of waiting, so I came to you. She said, today is. She stopped seeing them both. She asked in anger, what are you doing? Ruve tries to say, Jiyoon, this is. She said, how could both of you do this to me? Ruve said, Jiyoon, this isn't what you think. She turns and starts leaving saying, I don't care. Ruve shouts, wait, Jiyoon. He shouts, please, listen to me. Jiyoon. Meanwhile, he leaves Tia and she falls on the ground. He turns and gets shocked asking, what? He shouts seeing her on the ground, Queen. Meanwhile, Tia shouts with pain, my belly. She thinks, I feel like my stomach is ripping into pieces. She shouts in her mind, it hurts. It hurts so much. Ruve dawes towards the outside shouting, is there anyone outside? Call the doctor here, now. Tia thinks, why is he looking so panicked? Why? It's not like him to be so. Her dress was covered with blood and she thinks, why? She wakes up in her bed. Seeing towards window, she thinks, morning. Just like any other day. She thinks, but why do I feel so empty? The doctor asked her, are you awake, Your Highness? Tia remembers the moment she fell. She clenched her hand thinking this. She asked the doctor, did I lose my baby? The doctor said, I'm afraid so, Your Highness. She clenched her hand thinking, as I thought. The doctor said, I am so very sorry, Your Highness. She thinks, I guessed as much. There was too much blood. She asked the doctor, then, will I be able to bear another child? He replied, that's because you were always quite frail in health since you were young, Your Highness. She thinks, I see. Then I won't be able to see a child between him and I, now and forever, but. She recalls that moment. Ruve shouts, attend to the queen. Ji-yoon, wait, let me. She thinks, this might be for the better. It's better that a baby isn't born from a stubborn woman like me. Even now, the sight of him turning his back towards me, that hurts even more than the fact that I lost my child. It's just as he said. I am a chilling, cold woman. Meanwhile the maid starts gossiping. The queen is in such a state, yet her father Marquis Monique hasn't even come to see her. He only goes back and forth from the knight's quarters. Well, of course House Monique has always been fiercely loyal to the royal palace. I mean, he didn't show any discontent when his daughter was called for to be the queen. It's a humiliation after all the years she was trained as an empress. Does he not care about his daughter? Seeing Tia sleeping they said, well, just look at how calm the queen is after losing her child. I guess ice flows in the veins of that family instead of blood. After waking up Tia thinks, I wonder how many days or weeks passed since then. Yet another nightmare fell upon me even before I regained my health. She raised thinking, I couldn't sleep at all. Why is my insomnia getting worse? She thinks, I should go visit the office. I'm sure a lot of work has piled up while I was away. She was about to open the door when she heard maids saying, hey, did you hear the news? A maid asked, is it true? The other one said, it is. I heard the head maid talking about it. Tia gets shocked when they said, the empress is with a child. She thinks, Ji-yoon is pregnant. The maid said, I heard that the emperor was so very delighted. They're going to hold a grand banquet and offer gifts to all the people of the empire. Even the temples are holding a prayer to bless the child of the prophesied empress. Amazing. The empire will finally welcome an heir to the throne. She thinks, when I had a child, there were no such celebrations, and nobody rejoiced. Suddenly she starts losing her sense and starts laughing wildly and said, haha nobody. Seeing her the maids gets shocked and asked, Your Highness. They said, Your Highness, please forgive us. Meanwhile Tia laughs while saying, pregnant. She's pregnant. She giggles and laughs so hard and said, so Ji-yoon has a child, does she? Seeing her like this the maids gets shocked and said, Your Highness, please, calm yourself. Meanwhile Tia's dad opens the door hearing her voice and asked, my dear queen, is something wrong? The maid seeing him shouts, Sir Monique. Tia said, you're here, father. Are you here to congratulate the empress for bearing a child as well? I won't ever have a child from now on. But look, she's pregnant. How funny. Don't you think so, father? Her father steps close to her while she laughs continuously. He grabs her from her shoulders and shouts, please, get a hold of yourself. He shouts, Your Highness. Tia stops laughing. She asked, what was I? She turns and said, please forgive me for showing such disgrace, father. Meanwhile she thinks, I've been trained to contain my emotions, and yet, seeing her father she thinks, he must be disappointed. He was always stern no matter who he was facing, and even to himself. She gets shocked when her father said, I should never have sent you here. She asked, what? Meanwhile she thinks, father has never objected against the royal palace before. Father was always loyal. What does he mean by saying this now? He said to her, Your Highness, please listen closely. I have to travel to the borders due to an urgent matter. He said, so please, stay strong and wait for me. When I return, I will surely take you back to our Monique family home. Hearing this she asked, is that really true? Father, can I really return home? Her father said, I will definitely make it so. So please ready yourself, and stay well. He asked her, do you understand? Tia with a sense of happiness replied, yes, father. Her father while leaving said, now then. She thinks, father, he was always stern, yet he shows concern for me now. But, I wonder why I feel so uneasy. Father, he seems so far now. Maybe I should call him back, tell him not to leave. She thinks, no, he'll return soon. He always keeps his promise. She walks towards the window thinking, when he comes back, I'll ask him. Did you really think me more important, even though you've always put the empire and the royal palace first? I will definitely ask him, and then. Meanwhile, Ji-yoon gets attacked by masked men and shouts, Kya. Who are you? Who ordered you to do this? Ji-yoon was ambushed by masked men during her walk outside the palace grounds. It happened 4 days later. The knights seeing Ji-yoon injured shouts, Your Majesty. The maid came shouting while saying Your Highness. This is an emergency. She barges in and said, Marquis Monique was arrested for treason. Aristia gets shocked after hearing that she turns around and asked, My father. Aristia tells in her mind, Jiyoon was attacked by unknown men during her excursion into town and lost her child. The next day, my father was arrested as the mastermind behind the attack. While running to where the emperor was, Aristia thinks in her mind, this can't be. Father is a loyal man. He wouldn't do such a thing. After a while in the throne room, while standing in front of the emperor, Aristia said, Your Majesty, please spare my father, I beg you. While seated on his throne, the emperor said, You're asking me to forgive someone who tried to kill the empress. While worried for his father, Aristia said, There must be some sort of misunderstanding. Father would never do such a thing. She said, Please, think of the countless years our house has been loyal to the throne. Please spare his life. While smirking, the emperor asked, Really? He then said, Kneel. Aristia gets surprised after hearing that she said, What? The emperor said, Didn't you want to save your father? While showing his feet, he said, Kneel at my feet and lay your head on the ground. Lick my shoe and I shall spare your father. Then he asked, Well, you can't do it. Aristia clenches his hands and thinks in her mind, I am a woman who has been trained as an empress, to be the partner of the emperor all my life. I was taught to watch and judge the world along with him, standing equally by his side. I was taught to have a pride to match that position. While recalling Jiyoon in her mind, she thinks, much more so than the girl of the oracle. She thinks in her mind, I'm sure my father wouldn't want me to do something so humiliating. Because I am a member of the royal family. But, she recalls her memories in her mind and thinks, my father showed me the fatherly love for the first time. He promised to take me home. Pride, or the dignity of the throne. None of that matters to me anymore. I will save my father. Aristia then kneels in front of the emperor and get close to his feet. She thinks in her mind, yes, this is for my father. The emperor then said, You were always arrogant, and now I finally see you kneel. After that, Aristia raises her head and asked, Will you spare my father's life as promised? Then the emperor said, Oh, how unfortunate. Your father is already dead. He was executed this morning. Aristia gets stunned after hearing that. She then remembers in her mind her father leaving and thinks, Then that was my last sight of him. The emperor stands up from his throne and said, You're more naive than I thought. He leans down towards Aristia and said, Did you really think I would let him live? He killed my child and hurt Jiyoon. While he was talking, Aristia gets lost in thoughts. She thinks, I've never longer wanted for my father's love, not until the last moment, when I saw a sliver of hope in him. I thought I would finally be able to grasp that flickering feeling. While tear came to her eyes, she thinks, now I will never be able to know. After that, while feeling lost, Aristia said to the emperor, You say my father killed your child. Then what about you? She said, You took away my everything, you killed my child, and left me with nothing. So what about you? She stands up in anger, and while furious, she thinks in her mind, How dare you? Aristia pulls her hairpin from her hair and points it towards the emperor and said with anger, What? How dare you? She then stabs the emperor with the hairpin. The emperor was shocked and tears were falling from Aristia's eyes. While the emperor was in anguish, guards came shouting, Your Majesty! Your Majesty! Your wound is... Aristia was standing there while shocked and confused. One of the guards said, Hurry, call for the doctor. The rest of you, arrest the queen now. Aristia came back to his senses and looking at the hairpin stained in blood, she starts trembling. Hairpin fell from her hands. She then thinks, No. What have I done? What's happened to me? Back at the gallows. The announcer said, Ashuch, she will be deposed from the position of queen. As for punishment for attempting to murder a royal and such, she will be executed. The executioner puts Aristia head on the place. Aristia looks towards the emperor while Jiyoon closed her eyes from watching. Tears came falling from Aristia's face and she thinks in her mind, If I could begin my life again, I won't love you again. After that we heard a shunk sound. You are the one who I look upon. The path you take will be your fate. And what you wish for will be your path. The one who carves one's own fate, that is your name. Your name is... Aristia opens her eyes in a room and wonders, a familiar ceiling. A silver shield. The insignia of our house. Why is that there? How odd. She rises up from the bed and pulls aside the curtains. Looking outside the windows, she thinks, This is just like the mansion of House Monique. She gets shocked and confused and thinks in her mind, What is going on? I left home when I was 16. So why am I here now? The maid Lena opens the door and came inside. She asked, Are you awake? Good morning, Lady Tia. Aristia asked while confused, Lena, how are? Lena giggles and said, Oh no, look at you. Your hair is a mess. While Aristia was standing confused, she said, You're already 10 now, were you not able to fall asleep? Aristia quickly looks in the mirror. She said, what? 10 years old? She wonders, how did this happen? I was executed for treason. Oh, father. She asked, Lena, what about father? Lena replied, the Marquis. He is usually in the training hall at this hour. After hearing that, Aristia dashes away. While she was going, Lena said, oh, Lady Tia. You're still wearing your pajamas. While running through the hallway, servants who saw Aristia greets her, good morning, Lady Tia. Who's in such a hurry? Lady Tia. While going towards the training hall, Aristia thinks in her mind, I have to see. I must know if father is safe. Ah, please. I don't care if this is a dream or reality. I have to hurry, to father. After reaching the training hall, she saw her father and shouted, Father. Her father turns towards her and while surprised he said, Tia. Looking at his father, Aristia thinks in her mind, father was always loyal to the throne and put the royal throne before anything. But in his last moment, father thought of me more importantly than the empire. Aristia jumps towards her father and hugs him. While hugging her father, she said, Papa. 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 While tears were dropping from her face, she thinks in her mind, he's alive. I'm so glad. While sobbing, she said, Papa. All the night and her father were confused while all of this unfolded. After few moments, Lena was brushing Aristia's hair. While brushing, she said, I was so surprised. To think that the daughter of the Marquis, the young lady who is the epitome of etiquette, would run outside in her pajamas in the morning. Nobody would believe it unless they saw it with their own eyes. Lena asked, did you have a nightmare? Aristia thinks in her mind, a nightmare? Maybe. But they felt so real. Lena said, you will begin your lessons as the empress soon. Aristia tells in her mind, Lena got married and left when I entered the royal palace, but now, she looks even younger than the last time I saw her. And me too. Looking at her own hands, she thinks, small hands. Lena then said, the Marquis seemed a bit startled as well. You were always so quiet, yet you ran into him in tears. After hearing that, Aristia leans down while feeling embarrassed. She thinks in her mind, that's right. What in the world did I do? While Aristia was embarrassed, Lena asked, what's wrong? Aristia tells in her mind, I cried in his arms while everyone was looking. What a disgrace. How can I face him again like this? After a while in the dining room, while sitting, her father said, come here. Aristia said, I'm sorry for being late, father. Aristia sits on a chair and starts eating. She thinks in her mind, this is so awkward. She then looks towards her father and thinks, father looks a bit odd. She wonders, is there something that displeases him? He must be upset because of my behavior in the morning. Aristia then said, father. Are you feeling uncomfortable? Anywhere? Her father flinches after hearing that. Aristia gets surprised by her father's reaction, No. Her father said, it's nothing at all. She thinks, was that my imagination? Just now. Her father then said, Tia. She replied yes. Her father clears his throat and said, well, it's about. While thoughtful, Aristia wonders, is his throat uncomfortable? Her father continued, why don't you call me like B? Her father hesitates from speaking, but then he said, I mean, you called me. It's nothing. Continue with your meal. Aristia was surprised from her father's unexpected behavior. Looking at her father, Aristia thinks in her mind, father is alive. He's talking to me, and we're eating together. If this is a dream, then it's such a happy dream. I don't want to wake up, even if it means I must sleep forever. Later in her room while sleeping, Aristia remembers the emperor and his harsh behavior towards her. She remembers his words, make no mistake. You're nothing to me. Your child will never be my heir. Your father is dead. He was executed this morning. Aristia gasped and quickly rises up from her bed and breathes heavily. She then looks towards the mirror and saw her reflection. The next day, Lena said, it's time for your tea soon. While Aristia was reading the book, Lena asked, should I bring it to your room? Aristia said, no, I'll go downstairs. Lena asked, you will? While smiling, Lena said, there's your favorite today, meringue pie. You're too thin, Lady Tia. You must eat more. Aristia replied, is that so? She tells in her mind, after wandering in the cruel memories, I opened my eyes to see the people I missed, my home that I longed for. Such warm days. She wonders, which one is the dream, and which one is reality. I wonder how long this will last. While going away, her father said, I may be late, so don't worry about my supper. Aristia asked, father, are you leaving? Her father replied, yes. I must visit the palace. Aristia said, What, but you don't need to work today. Her father then said, I have something urgent to discuss with Duke Arcant. Aristia said, I see. Her father looks towards her and extends his hand and pats Aristia. He asked Tia, are you not feeling well? Huh? He asked, or do you have something to say to me? You suddenly broke into tears last time, as well. Aristia replied, it's nothing. I'm not sick at all. Father. Her father said, really? Looking at his father's confused face, Aristia thinks, he's making that face again. Her father then stands back up and said, well, if you say so. Aristia said, take care, father. Her father takes a sigh and said, so you won't call me like that anymore. Huh? While her father gets up on the carriage, he said, I'll be back soon. Looking at his father's carriage going, Aristia tells in her mind, father and I were always cold with each other, only sharing the absolutely necessary manners. But now, he's different from how I remembered him. He patted me on the head, a bit awkwardly so. And I could feel his warmth through the gloves. Perhaps my life was so pitiful that God decided to grant me one last dream. While she was thinking, she wonders, God, that's right. Temple of Vita, the ruling god of the empire. Perhaps the temple of the oracle will have the answer. I should go tomorrow to be certain. At night, while lying in her bed, Aristia suddenly opens her eyes. While gasping, she rises up and thinks in her mind, so dark. I can't see anything. Where is this? Where am I? Is this the palace? Or, while she was wondering, someone grabs her hand. While shocked, she asked, who's there? Her father said, Tia, it's me. She said, Father. She then quickly hugs her father and repeatedly said, Papa. 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 While patting her head, her father said, you must have had a bad nightmare. While crying, Aristia thinks in her mind, a nightmare. Is it really? I don't know which one is my reality anymore. But I don't want to lose this warmth. At morning, her father said, I should go with you. Aristia said, I'm all right. You must be busy, father. Her father said, you had trouble falling asleep last night. I can't send you to the temple alone. While sitting in the carriage, Aristia said, don't worry. I'll be careful. The carriage starts running, and while looking outside, Aristia thinks in her mind, Father, he held my hand until I fell asleep last night. She thinks, I can't be certain which is my reality. But if those memories were a dream, and if that was a dream of the future, there might be an oracle that I don't know about. Great Temple, Sanctus Vita. At the temple, the priestess said, may you be blessed with life. Please announce your name and the purpose for your visit. Aristia introduced herself, I am Aristia Monique. I wish to read any oracles from the past few months. The priestess replied, there is nothing as such. The oracle from 5 years ago was the most recent one. Aristia thinks in her mind, what should I do? Looks like they don't have any. Then she said to the priestess, then I would like to read all the oracles from the past 10 years. The priestess said, I will show you to the prayer room. After reading all of those oracles, Aristia thinks in her mind, there is nothing that suggests anything about my situation. She remembers her old self and thinks, I was 17 years old in that memory. If this place where I am 10 is my reality, that means I've spent 7 years in a night's dream. She remembers the emperor's cold gaze and thinks, but, can that really be so? I can still feel his cold glare and the misery I felt from back then as if it was yesterday. She wonders, am I simply in a dream right now? While standing up, she said to herself, phew, what should I do now? The air around her starts blowing, and then she heard a voice. You are here, my child. After hearing those words, Aristia got transported to another space. Aristia shouted, who are you? Who's talking to me right now? The voice said, I am the one who imbues life into all. You all call me Vita. Aristia thinks in her mind, this can't be. Is someone playing a prank? The voice then said, you wish to know which is the truth, between yourself now and yourself when you were 17. While surprised, Aristia asked, how did you? The voice interrupts her and said, nothing can escape from my gaze. The answer to your question is that both are your reality. Aristia asked, how can that be? Are you saying that I traveled back in time? The voice replied, that is correct. I have used my power of life to turn back the time of all there is. Aristia asked, why would you do that? The voice replied, because the fates of too many have been distorted by my blessed child. Aristia asked, a blessed child? The voice said, my blessed child was fated to be born in this world. However, she ended up falling to another world due to a twist in dimensions. I brought her back into this world when I found her, but that ended up twisting the fate of many, including you. Aristia thinks in her mind, another world. Jiyun. Jiyun is the blessed child. Aristia then said, then why? Why didn't you send another oracle about Jiyun? If I knew that she would appear from another world in the first place, perhaps I would have given up on him earlier. The voice then said, because, when I lost my blessed child, your string of fate, though thin, ended up tangling with him. Aristia gets shocked after hearing that. She said, how can that? Then, do you mean to say that I was tangled with him, in order to fill the void left by Jiyun's absence? The voice replied, that is so. Aristia said, then, my love, my painful love for him wasn't my own will. You're saying it was an emotion decided simply by fate. The voice said, that is so. Aristia then said, I worked so hard, yet I was never loved back. And that was all because I was just a temporary substitute. Tears starts dropping from her eyes. She said, my existence was simply meant to be a substitute for the blessed child, loved by God. The voice said, that is so. Then Aristia shouted, don't play with me. I lived my life in pain for something like that while she had everything. She vent her anger saying, you're a God that overlooks all life equally, yet you made a child blessed by God. How can you interfere with people as you wish? The voice said, humans cannot avoid the decision that is given unto them. And it is called fate, fatum. Aristia interrupts the voice and said, no. I refuse a fate like that. The voice said, a human cannot avoid fate. Aristia remembers the emperor in her mind and said, I truly loved him, even though he was never warm towards me. I did all her work as an empress that was pushed to me instead. The people of the empire belittled me, called me a wicked woman, yet I did not bear any ill will towards any of them. She was thinking, God must be testing me like this in order to help me get stronger. God is fair and wise, God will grant me something better after such hardship, that is what I believed. While sobbing she thinks in her mind, yet in truth, I had no freedom to begin with. I was forced to exist as his woman because of fate. I lived my life without knowing the warmth of my father's love. The voice then said, my child, I pity you. But a fate that is decided cannot be changed. So I will instead give you a gift to reward you for your twisted fate. Aristia stops crying and said, a reward? What a joke. She said, fine, I will accept that. Then she shouted with anger, don't you dare be mistaken. I will never think of you as God, and I will never thank you. I will not believe in God anymore. I will reject you with all my life. I will be the one to throw away a God, the same as I was discarded. After hearing all of that the voice then said, that is fine. Do as you wish. After that Aristia starts seeing a star shapes around her and she also heard crackling sound all around her. While Aristia was startled the voice said, you are the one who I look upon. Then voice continued, you are the one who refuses fate. The path you take shall be your fate, and what you wish for will be your path. The one who carves one's own fate, that is your name. Aristia Pioneer La Monique. Aristia falls asleep while hearing those words. Aristia wonders in her dreams, what did I live my life for? What is my existence? In the end, I was nothing. While in her dreams she heard someone calling, Tia. Tia. She thinks, what? It's noisy. Tia. She said, leave me alone. The voice continues, Tia. 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 While covering her ears Aristia thinks, I have nothing more to give to you. My effort, my pride, my tears, my love, and Tia, you rejected my whole being. What more do you want from me? The voice didn't stop calling, Tia. 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 Someone said, please. Please, open your eyes. She heard, Tia, wake up. Tia. Aristia opens her eyes and saw her father and other maids worried looking at her. Lena asked, Lady Tia, you're awake. Aristia then called her father. Her father said, Lena, you're finally awake. Aristia looks at her father crying and thinks in her mind, tears. My father, who was always so stern. The servant said, I'm so relieved, Lady Tia. I was so surprised to hear that you collapsed at the temple. We thought something was terribly wrong since you didn't wake up for such a long time. Hearing their worries Aristia feels touched and thinks in her mind, that's right, I'm not alone. Now, I have my father who loves me enough to abandon his duties, Lena, whom I've been with since I was young, and the people from my family who worry about me. I have people around me who will hold my hand if I reach out. I don't need to yearn for God's salvation. All I had to do was look around. I finally realized that when I thought even God abandoned me. While feeling grateful for all the affection she got she said to everyone, thank you so much. She firmed her resolve and thinks in her mind, I want to live once more, together with these people. I will live a different life from before. After some time, while having tea her father said, you're looking much better. Do you feel better now, Tia? Her father asked. Aristia replied, yes, I'm sorry for making you worry. Fath. While she was talking she saw her father looking distant. She stops and changes her wording, Papa. Tia smiled softly, surprised by how much her father liked being called Papa. Her father said, anyway, I'm relieved. He said, by the way, Tia. Aristia replied, yes. He asked, can you tell me what happened at the temple? Tia said, well. Tia pondered internally. What can I possibly say? I died when I was 17 because of treason. And then I opened my eyes to find out I'm 10 years old again. They're all just memories in my head about the things yet to come. After Aristia doesn't said anything, her father said, while you fainted, God sent a new oracle. The royal palace was quite busy thanks to that. He told Aristia that, the oracle granted you a new name. Aristia wonders, a new name? That was given to me by God. That means. Her father said, Aristia Pioneer La Monique. And so, the emperor wishes to see you. She thinks in her mind, oh dear, Tia thought, so this was the reward. They went to the palace. Standing in front of the palace building, her father said, you haven't been to the palace in a long time. Do you remember? Looking at the palace, her days of misery came to her mind and she shivers, the royal palace, where she only remembered misery and dismay. Tia felt a surge of fear. I'm scared, she admitted quietly. She thinks in her mind, I feel like I can hear the mocking laughter already, she thought, her heart pounding. Her father looks at her and she was trembling. He picked her and lifts her up in the sky. Aristia gets surprised. Her father then carries her and went inside the palace. The servants present at the palace saw her father and gets surprised. One of them calls, Sir Monique has arrived. Huh, Commander, gasp, huh, Tia flinched. Aristia looks at the guards who were surprised and said to her father, please let me down, Papa. Her father said to her, it's not that far. Stay still. Feeling blushed, Aristia thinks in her mind, but, everyone is looking this way. Her father greets the emperor, greetings, your majesty, the sole son of the empire, her father said, bowing. The emperor said, welcome, Sir Monique. And the young lady Monique as well. The 33rd emperor of the Castina Empire, Mercan Lu Shana Castina. The emperor said, I was hoping to discuss some matters with you all, how convenient, since we're all here now. Other people present there were as respected. Duke Arcant de Ras, commander of the 1st Knight Squadron. Duke Ruth de Verita, chancellor. Her father said, we await your word, your majesty. Then the emperor said, I feel there are still those who wish for the demise of this empire. So we must be prepared. As such, I was thinking of increasing the numbers of our soldiers and knights. We'll need funds to support that, and I think increasing taxes will be appropriate. What do you think? The Duke Arcant flinches after hearing that. He stated his opinion. Nad said, what? Recruiting more knights is already trouble enough, but increasing taxes on top of that. Your Majesty, why do you always harass me like this? What did I do? Pointing towards Aristia's father he said, whenever there's a new policy like this, I'm the one who gets harassed by all the nobles. This one here is too loyal and says yes to everything. He complained. While laughing the emperor said, well, isn't that why I'm telling you this in advance? The duke then said, HMPH. I'm sure there will be opposition. But, alright. If his majesty thinks it's fine. Aristia recalls her memories and thinks in her mind, this won't work. Tia thought, her mind racing. In the past, this policy, it eventually failed and even led to a riot. The increased taxes became a burden for the common people instead of the nobles who should have paid. Though, the emperor added, I would like to hear what the young lady thinks of this matter. The emperor said, I have heard much about your bright mind, Lady Tia. So, what do you think of this policy? After hearing that Aristia complied, she thinks in her mind, I see. They let me hear this on purpose. She tells in her mind, Duke Ruth is a wise chancellor. He would know the problems in this policy, yet he's staying quiet because the emperor is testing me. I already stand out because of the oracle. If I stand out any more than this, they will become more wary of me. But, why so? Aristia stated his opinion that policy should not be implemented, Your Majesty. The empire is expected to go through a severe drought soon. She said, the empire suffers a severe drought every 30 to 40 years. The sign of that coming drought is the below-average harvest that precedes it for years. If this policy is executed, the people of the empire will suffer from starvation for years. While she was talking she thinks in her mind, I know it will happen, so I must stop this. She said, and this year is the beginning of the signs. Then the emperor asked his chancellor, what do you think? Duke Ruth replied, What the lady has mentioned is true. There are signs of a drought coming, starting this year. However, increasing the military power of the empire is still necessary. The emperor then asked, how will we do that now? Aristia thinks in her mind, I've already spoken too much, and I can't turn back. Recalling events from her past life she tells, in the past, the second son of Duke Ruth came up with a new policy. I am sorry for him, since he was later recognized for thinking of this policy, but I must think of the people who might starve. Aristia then said, there is a way. By taxing luxury items. Tax luxury items that are not a necessity but used by nobles. The merchants will sell the goods for a price that includes the tax, and in turn, the throne can collect those taxes from the merchants. Duke Ruth smiled after hearing her suggestion. He said, I see. The lady's suggestion is great, Your Majesty. He further explains, luxury items are better for showing off the more expensive they are. If we tax luxury items as the lady has suggested, we will be able to collect the funds without much opposition. Then Emperor said, very well. Come up with a detailed plan and execute the policy. Duke Ruth said, yes, Your Majesty. The Emperor praised Aristia and said, I am truly amazed to see how brilliant you are in person. Aristia complied and said, I am honored, Your Majesty. Then the Emperor said, Lady Tia, I wonder why you didn't speak your full name just now. You know what the meaning of the name is. Did you choose not to speak it because of the eyes here? Aristia replied, please, I do not understand what. The Emperor added, no, of course not. You are a brilliant young lady. He said with a serious face, do you dare to say that you really don't know that a middle name from God means a right to inherit the throne? Aristia looks at the Emperor and realized that, the Emperor was no longer looking at his son's future wife. He was looking at his or his son's rival. The stare of an emperor. His hostile eyes look so much like the eyes from someone in the past. The Emperor questioned, you knew that I was testing you. So why didn't you ignore it? Duke Arkant said, Your Majesty. The Emperor continued, if you feigned innocence and foolishness, perhaps you could have avoided my suspicion. Aristia then said, that, I couldn't back down for the sake of my own safety when I knew the people of the empire were at risk. She thinks in her mind, a sudden appearance of a possible heir to the throne who is not a royal. Perhaps the Emperor is considering, to banish me, or even House Monique. After hearing those words the Emperor starts laughing. He said while laughing, my. Looks like I've frightened the young lady too much. Do not fear. I don't think of you as a threat to the prince. He said with a relaxed expression, this throne isn't something that can be taken simply with a name. I didn't raise my child to be such a fragile person. Duke Arkant asked, Your Majesty, why did you hold such a grave mood if you weren't going to do anything? The Emperor said to Aristia, you are not fit to be a ruler, child. If I were you, I would have feigned innocence this moment and sent word about the drought through more elusive means. Your heart is too soft and kind to be a ruler. After hearing that Aristia thinks in her mind, I have a kind heart. I've never heard that in my life. I was always told that I'm a cold, objective person. The Emperor said, an emperor must take care of oneself in order to lead the empire. And so, someone who willingly accepts danger is not fit to be a ruler. However, the Emperor added, your kind heart and brilliance that thinks of the people of this empire are perfect as an empress. And that makes me very sad at this moment. Duke Ruth asked, why do you say so, Your Majesty? The Emperor then said while remembering the prince, you all know very well why. That child grew up as the one and only heir to my throne. And because of that, he has to be the center of attention at all times. He said to Aristia, you're a brilliant young lady who was given a name by God. If you were to be praised, I wonder how that arrogant child will respond. Outside the throne room, the guards greets the prince, Your Highness. Welcome, Your Highness, lesser son of the empire. The prince said, I am here to see the emperor. One of the guard replied, Your Highness, I beg your pardon. The emperor has forbidden anyone from entering at the moment. The prince asked, who is in the audience hall right now? One of them replied, Duke Ruth, Duke Arkant, Marquis Karen, and his young daughter. The prince thinks, they are discussing something important enough to forbid any entry. Tisk, so why is that child allowed in there while I am barred from entering? The prince turns around and starts walking. While going away he thinks right. It's not like this is the first time. Father has always been strict to me, yet he always treats that child dearly. Back in the throne room, Aristia said while hesitating, I beg your pardon, Your Majesty. The Emperor aloud, go ahead, tell me what you think. Before saying anything Aristia hesitates. Aristia said, I do not wish to be involved with the prince in any way or matter. Meanwhile, While walking, the prince remembers Duke Ruth saying, "Your Highness, have you heard about Lady Tia? She's only 10 now, but her accomplishments are outstanding. Her etiquette and studies are all perfect to be the partner of a good ruler." The prince gets frustrated by everyone praising Aristia. He thinks in his mind, "Lady Tia. Everyone is praising that girl wherever I go." He said to his father in his mind, "You should just announce her as your heir instead of me." Back in the throne room, the emperor said, "You don't want to be involved." He asked, "Why is that?" Her father also asked, "Tia." Aristia thinks in his mind, "I have to make a choice here. I can't repeat my life from the past again. You can't send a girl with a right to inherit the throne to marry a different family or to another country. Yet you're worried about the future if you announce me as the future empress." Then, she asked the emperor, "Then, aren't you planning to welcome me as a future queen?" The emperor said, "That is correct." While Duke Ruth stays silent. While feeling agitated, Aristia thinks in her mind, "Like father, like son. How can they be so alike?" Then the emperor asked, "But, you are the foretold partner in the oracle, are you not?" Asterisk. Aristia replied, "We cannot be certain whether I am truly the mentioned partner or not." She said, "The oracle mentions the birth of a girl. However, we do not know whether that birth means born at a moment, or if the girl is still in her mother's womb at the time." While remembering Jiun in her mind, she thinks, "Right. It's certain because the foretold partner is not me. It's the girl loved by the god Vita, a girl who appeared from another world. I was born the year after the oracle. Jiun is a year older than me." The oracle was referring to her. "But nobody will believe me even if I say that now." Asterisk. She then said, "Please, give me some time, Your Highness. I will find another solution. If the matter is not urgent at the moment, it is better to step back and assess the situation in order to strive for the betterment of both parties." She added, "You've taught me this just a few moments ago, Your Majesty. And regardless of what you choose, I know I will remain the future wife of the prince for a while." The emperor said, "So you've predicted even that." Duke Ruth smiles and praises Arsatai in his mind, "What an amazing child." She even surmised that there will be strife among the throne and the royal factions in such a short time. If the engagement is broken now, people will speak of a disagreement between House Monique and the royal throne. And that will be a perfect excuse for the noble faction who opposes the royal throne. Duke Arkant also praises her and thinks, "Karen Shore has an amazing daughter." Then the emperor said, "Good. The prince will have his coming of age ceremony in a few years. I will wait until then." While looking at Aristia, he admires her and thinks, "This child is only 10. She will grow to be an enviable, brilliant young woman." After some time, while walking in the palace, Aristia said to herself, "Phew, that was exhausting. I don't think I'll ever get used to His Majesty's imposing aura. My back aches from being so nervous back there." She thinks in her mind, "I've bought some time, but I don't know how long this will last. What should I do from now on?" While walking, Aristia enters the palace garden. Looking at the big tree in the middle, she thinks in her mind, This place is." She remembers something and quickly tries to leave. She said to herself, "I have to go back. It was a habit of mine to walk this place when I'm thinking. I can't be here. What if I run into someone here?" While leaving the garden, she heard a voice saying, "Who's there?" While Aristia was thinking, "In a place like this, what if I run into?" The voice she heard continued, "This is the Emperor's garden. This place is not open to just anyone." While turning, Aristia thought, "I can never forget that voice." She looks at the prince from the edge of bushes, Prince Ruvalis. She thinks in her mind, "Why did he have to be here?" Freaking out, she thinks, oh no, I can't let him see me. He'll definitely get mad at me." Asterisk. Her heart was racing. She thinks in her mind, what do I do? Run." The prince then said, "Do not hide and show yourself." He continued, "How impertinent. Did you not hear me?" Asterisk. Aristia thinks in her mind, "Oh no. Don't come here. I need to avoid him first." She prays in her mind, "Please, don't come this way." A gust of wind came and her hat flew. Aristia tries to catch her hat and she suddenly came in front of the prince. The prince gets surprised by her. He said, You're the daughter of Marquis Karen. Your audience with the emperor is finished." Asterisk. Aristia, looking at the prince, remains stunned and doesn't say anything. The prince asked, "Why won't you say anything?" He said, "You're being rude. I'm sure you know who I am. So why are you behaving like that?" Aristia still doesn't say anything. She thinks in her mind, "My mouth won't open. My hand, my body, they won't move." The prince asked again, "Are you not going to answer me?" How disrespectful of you. Aristia while stunned thinks in her mind, I can't even turn away from his gaze.